Many years when Barrie was on the board of directors in a very prominent way. And Kathy was very dear to Barrie deVeber. Kathy is on maternity leave right now. We miss her great knowledge and work that her thoughts precede all of the things we need to do in such an organized way. But Kathy came today because she wanted to give her thoughts and memories about Barrie from her having worked with him. Barrie was always very, very fond of any of the young people that came into the Institute. And so he shared that fondness in a special way with Kathy, and she returned it. Kathy. Thank you.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Martha, for that warm introduction. I'm honored to be here and to reflect a little bit about a man who, with his soft-spoken voice and amazing laugh, could quiet a room of hundreds of people with his words and humility. Dr. Barrie deVeber was an extraordinary man who lived a seemingly ordinary life. However ordinary, being a physician, founding member of various organizations, father of 6, husband, friend, healer, speaker, and advocate for the voiceless can be. He is a personal hero of mine. Our friendship started when I first started working as the executive director of the deVeber Institute exactly 10 years ago. I had come to know the Institute because of Professor Gentles when I was at this university studying science and looking for a pro-life speaker. I was president of the pro-life club, actually, and I couldn't find one. I couldn't find a single person who would put their name and their credentials on the line and speak for the voiceless until I found deVeber and the Institute. So thank you, Ian. I'm probably the youngest member of the speakers here this evening to speak. And I knew Barrie the shortest compared to these esteemed colleagues and friends. My first impression of Dr. deVeber was that he was incredibly humble and funny. He made a room laugh hard and quick. The first day I met Barrie, we were introduced by Martha Crean. Barrie looked at me and said, point blank, "Wow, you're pretty." I said, "Thank you." He followed with, "Are you married?" I said, "No." He looked shocked and quickly asked, "Are you a lesbian?" I laughed more and said, "No." He laughed as well and said, "Well, we're lucky to have you." He liked to joke a lot. And that's how our friendship began. That's what amazed me about him. And he didn't need to know you completely to know that you were a good person. His faith in people, and especially his faith in God, was pure and simple. It allowed him to master believing the best in people. That is a skill and quality I have yet to encounter on the level and compassion I saw in him. He believed in people. He sought the best in people. He gave and showed hope, no matter the cost. Dr. Will Johnson, you illuminated and illustrated so carefully for us the current climate in Canada. It's a stark contrast to the lightness and sweetness that Dr. Barrie deVeber had in, I feel, his own person. I remember countless conversations with him, talking about his family, his voyages, his children, and his wife. He always shared a thoughtful story or word, a sweet gesture or memory. He was truly a gift to all he encountered. A few years ago, in preparation of his memoir, a number of us drove to London to speak to Barrie, capture pictures of him and his wife Viola, and record him speaking about himself and his work. That day was wonderful, and I will always remember his care for others and love for his wife shown while we were with him. He proudly showed off Iola's artwork and stood beside her, beaming as she shared about her life and travels. He was a simple, honest, and loving human being. I'm so blessed to have been able to meet, work, and get to know him over the years. I know many of us speaking here tonight have shared about Barrie's work. A lot of his work would overlap. Often while working at the Institute over the last 10 years, I would get an email or a phone call for someone asking about Barrie. Is he alive? And I would thankfully say yes. That individual was a patient of Barrie. They were healed. They had survived either cancer or another disease. They had gone on to grow up and have a family of their own. And after many years, wanted to find out where the doctor who saved his or her life was. That was Barrie. This is all part of his legacy. There were so many people who wanted to thank Barrie for all he did for them and their families. Working with Barrie for the deVeber Institute was an honor and privilege. He showed all of us patience, working with every young person he encountered, with great humility, warm regard, and care. He knew he was planting important seeds in each person. These young people he met and mentored blossomed from summer students to deVeber interns, and finally to Institute alumni, who became young professionals, including nurses, theologians, priests, professors, doctors, lawyers, developers, business people, family men and women who have since gone on to have children, begin and participate in other valuable missions and organizations with mandates that respect and defend human life. He left his mark. His legacy will continue in all whom he influenced and impacted. He graced us with his presence at countless meetings, events, conferences, and on calls. He was always a thoughtful, illuminating, refreshing, and insightful voice in our discussions and commentary. Everyone loved him. He was always able to make someone laugh, even those who stood in opposition of what he stood for. You couldn't help admire someone with such a heart and great personality. He stood for life in so many organizations and fought for those who couldn't fight for themselves. I know he is and will be rewarded richly for his work here on earth. We're so blessed also to have an account of his life, accomplishments, and the book called Barrie, the Memoirs of Dr. L.L. deVeber. This is the story of Dr. Barrie's deVeber's life. Susan Schadenberg, a lifelong friend and colleague with Alex Schadenberg at the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition and co-author of his book Memoirs, wanted to share this short reflection about Barrie with all of you today. She says, "He was a classic Irishman. Just put a microphone in front of him, and away he would go. A charming man from the old school that viewed women as the lovely other, but enjoyed the camaraderie of a drink with friends. Barrie would speak disarmingly modestly, always questioning how a person like himself, with so little brains, could become a doctor. He gave his mother's influence credit for that. Barrie would say, 'I shouldn't really tell you this, but,' as you leaned in closer to hear better. Were some of the stories good old-fashioned blarney? Not really. He just preferred to tell a story in a humorous way. He did not dwell on sadness. Barrie was quick to call a fool. No mincing words there. And he would always speak up for the truth, even though it ostracized him from his fellow doctors. Barrie was a very compassionate man, feeling for the child in pain and the parents in mourning. Barrie had a heart as big as the sky. It was a privilege to write the book Barrie with him." That's from Susan Schadenberg. The book, Memoirs, is available from EPC. Please contact them if you'd like to make a bulk order or send a copy to someone. We have a limited number of copies available here tonight at the front. I will always remember Barrie as the sweet-tempered, soft-spoken, and kind man we all knew him to be. I am forever grateful to have known him and to have called him a few weeks just before he passed away. Even then, in those few minutes of speaking, he managed to offer me hope for my family, and his memory of me having a second child and asking about it made my day. Barrie always thought to ask how you and your family were doing. Such a humble and sweet man I know I've never encountered. I believe and pray he is looking down on us today, giving his blessing and making heaven laugh. God bless you, Barrie. I hope I get to see you again. Thank you for everything you've taught, shown us, and led us to. You're a true hero, and you left a remarkable legacy. We love you.